Let's do this. CSE 116. Spring. Oops. I'm on the wrong one already. Spring 2021. Let's go. So, first of all, there are two sections of CSE 116 this semester. I'm teaching one section. I knew I was going to forget to do this. I got to introduce myself. So, I'm Dr. Jesse Hartloff. I go by just Jesse. You can call me Jesse in the chat or wherever. Email. Just Jesse is fine. Jesse. I assume most of you have at least seen my videos in CSE 199. You probably at least know me through that, but there's not much personal interaction in 199, so we'll get to know each other a bit better, at least through Twitch chat this semester. So, are you single? No, I'm married. I got the ring. Sorry to break the hearts out there. So there is another section of CSE 116 this semester. So if you are in the other section, make sure you know what section you're enrolled in. If you're in the other section, you're still welcome to hang out in our streams. You can interact and chat and everything. But the assignments will be different across the sections. There will be different grading structures. There's a lot of differences. So make sure you're checking UB Learns if you're in Dr. Echter's section. So make sure you're aware of that. Don't be submitting my assignments and then realizing at the end of the semester that you have 0 points in your actual section. So just want to make sure that's clear. If you are in my section, you're in the right place. I don't use UB Learns for this course. I did activate the UB Learns course just because if I don't, I always get the question of why isn't this course showing up in UB Learns? Am I enrolled properly, etc., etc. So I did activate it. You should have 2 sections in UB Learns. It's one for the lecture and one for the lab section. I won't use either of them. You can completely ignore them. You can remove them from your homepage or whatever, so that there's no extra clutter in UB Learns. I won't use UB Learns though. This site is everything you need. The site is CSE116.com, which is literally as simple as I can possibly make it. If you ever ask me what the course website is in this course, I probably won't answer you. If I do answer you, I'll probably give you some snarky remarks, some with heavily laced sarcasm and stuff like that. I can't make it any easier. I don't know what else I can do to make the website easier for you. CSE116.com. I also put it in the title of every Twitch video. So there should be no question on what the course website is. Since you're here, if you're hearing me say this, you probably already found the course website anyway. So let's go through these links on the top. Again, if you're hearing me right now, you've probably found this one already. Twitch. I'll stream every lecture on Twitch. And like I said, I'll try to log on early every day. My target is 1:40 for this course. I want to log on at start the stream at 1:40, answer any questions, and interact with y'all before that. And I'll also stay on after. I'll stay on till at least 3 p.m. every day. And if chat is active, if there's a lot going on, a lot of questions or anything, I'll stay on past 3. But even if chat's completely dead and I have 0 viewers, I'm just sitting here talking to myself, I'll at least stay till 3 o'clock. Just in case somebody pops in at 2:50 and has a quick question for me or something. Which is something we don't get. I like doing that because we don't get much of that in this online environment. We used to get at least some of that. You could at least come down and talk to me after lecture when we were IRL. With this new format, we don't get that, so I want to give you before and after, which, as it turns out, is actually better than anything we have on campus, in my opinion. If you're not hearing me right now, you're hearing me sometime in the future after recording, you at least found this link, the YouTube link. All the videos will be posted there, usually day of. TA Mike is really good about getting the videos processed and uploaded within the same day of the lecture. But also Twitch has the VODs available as well, but they do get deleted in, I believe, 60 days after the stream. So you can't watch them after that. That's why we back them up on YouTube, to be able to have more longevity, more permanent videos posted. So you can go to YouTube. You can actually watch all of last 2 semesters. I've been doing this for 2 semesters. Even before the COVID, I was recording and streaming from the lecture halls. So we have videos for the past 2 semesters on YouTube. You can go look at those. I do share that with my other courses. So there's 312 lectures. There's 442 lectures as well. So you do have to look for the CSE 116, and Mike tags the beginning of every title with the course number. So you can, Mike's a serial guy, damn you. So So all the lectures are there. You can watch past semesters if you really want to get ahead of the material, and this semester's as they're coming out. With Twitch VODs, so Twitch will host the VOD from the moment I start streaming. It's a little bit, the interface is a little bit, I think it's a little cryptic. But to do that, you go to my channel where you are right now if you're watching this live. Click on Hartloff right below the stream, and it's going to open up some more options. One of those is a videos tab, and you can see videos of all the past broadcasts that are within the 30, 60 days, whatever it is. Those go live as soon as I start streaming. So if for whatever reason you come to a lecture and you're a little late, you show up at like 2 and I've already started and you have no idea what I'm talking about because I'm in the middle of a lecture, click on videos and you can actually watch the currently live broadcast from the beginning. So you can actually start over from the beginning and not miss a thing. There's no excuse to, I showed up late so I didn't hear you saying that. You can just watch from the beginning. Then, once you get to a boring part or whatever, maybe you can switch back to the live view. I don't care what you do. I don't know what you do as long as you get the content. But that's one kind of pro tip with this that I like to share. Watch the VOD if you're late to class so you don't miss things. We have a Zoom meeting for labs. We do have lab this week, which I'll probably get that question 100 times anyway. But we do have lab this week. So this Thursday, go to your lab time. Go to this Zoom meeting. During that time, the TAs and I will be there, and then we'll let you know what to do after that. We'll have a lab to actually set up Git and clone. I'll skip ahead to this one. All the code examples that you see in lecture are going to be hosted in this GitHub repo. The first lab this week, we're going to show you how to clone this repo, get your hand on that code, and be able to play with that in IntelliJ. So getting IntelliJ set up, getting Scala set up. This course will be in Scala, by the way, for those of you who don't know. We'll use IntelliJ as the IDE, and we'll do... in that first Zoom meeting this Thursday, we're going to set you up with that, with GitHub, IntelliJ, all that. Ideally, you'll be ready before lab starts. You already have everything set up, but if you don't, we'll be there to help you out. We use AutoLab for programming submissions. I'm pretty sure you use this in 115. I'm almost positive. If you're a transfer student and you didn't take 115 here, we use this for submitting programming assignments, and they'll be automatically graded, and you'll get feedback on your submissions. So you submit your assignment, you wait a while, you mash refresh, and then you get a bunch of feedback about your program and a score. Well, not really a score, but you'll get feedback about your assignments. Piazza, I'm also going to assume that you're mostly familiar with this. This link goes to exactly a Piazza post that has our office hours schedule, at which we're populating as myself and the TAs, as all our schedules settle down. We'll add all of our office hours there. This goes directly to a post with the office hours schedule and information about how to go to office hours, and also Piazza in general, asking questions. If you haven't used it before, it's fairly intuitive. You can ask questions. If you're including code in your question, please post it privately to instructors. But there are 4, I believe, posts there already from the TAs letting you know how to use our protocols for Piazza, etc. So check that out. And to set up IntelliJ, there's some good information there already. And finally, Discord. So we do have a Discord server for my courses. CSE 116 and 312 are both in there. Especially in an online environment, we don't really have a way for you to talk to each other very much, so I like to offer Discord, which I was doing before COVID anyway, but it's more important these days, just where you can interact with other students. And we have a lot of TAs who hang out there as well. I pop in from time to time, and yeah, Discord is the lawless wild west of 116. So if you have a formal question for the course staff, go to Piazza. If you just want to chat and share memes and stuff, go to Discord. It's a little less, it's a little more open-ended on what you can talk about. It doesn't have to be about the course. But there's like a 116 channel. Don't talk about other stuff in the 116 channel, for example. But check that out. And that can be, so I envision it as the place where usually you would just hang out in Davis Hall or in the hallways after class and just talk to your classmates and stuff. We can do that in Discord these days. We can still have that interaction, which we largely miss when we're when we're fully remote. Okay. So that's like the socials. I know that's a lot of links, but like Discord is fully optional. You only have to check that out if you want. Piazza and office hours, you should be there, but only if you need help. This I highly recommend to check out the code examples. These two are required. You have to go to lab to get grades. You have to submit your programming assignments to get grades, and you should watch lectures either live or the VODs. One of those two is required. So it's a lot, but I don't think it's a lot. Are there office hours? There will be office hours this week, but the schedule is very sparse right now. Like, for example, I don't have my office hours posted yet because I'm not sure when they're going to be. I got other meetings and stuff. I just got to get everything scheduled and then see where my office hours make sense. They will probably be Thursday after all the lab sections. So sometime after 6 p.m., probably 7 to 9 Thursday is what I'm eyeballing right now for my office hours. I believe only 1 or 2 TAs have their office hours, any office hours on there as well. But it will populate shortly. Imagine talking to people in 2020. I know, this world is so weird now. All right, so with that, let's get into the course proper and talk about what we're going to learn this semester. So I'm known for saying in 115, I don't know if I'm known for it, but when I teach 115, which last time was probably 2 years ago by now, it's been a while. But when I teach 115, I often like to say, with the content that you learn in 115, with the skills that you have after 115, you can do anything. You can write any program that you can imagine with those skills. And that's true. You can write anything at all. So if I'm pitching that in 115, what am I selling in 116 if you can already do everything? Well, with what you know in 115, you can do anything, but once your program gets more than like a couple hundred lines of code, you're going to struggle to really get things done. It's hard to, you might not be able to formulate a very large program. And that's the underlying theme of 116 is how do we write large programs? Once we have a lot of complexity, a lot of moving parts, how do we get them all to combine to be able to accomplish a much larger goal? So to that end, in 116, we're going to start off, we're going to talk about these 4 learning objectives, which you're going to learn to know inside and out and love. Program execution. This is largely the intro to Scala kind of portion of the course, but we're also going to learn 2 new concepts, and that's unit testing, testing our code to figure out if it works or not without using an autograder, and a professor telling us if it works or not, and also memory. How is memory managed? How do programs execute? What's variable scope? What numbers mean? Actually, that is part of program execution. What's the difference between an integer and a double? What does that even mean to be an integer? That's what we're going to learn in program execution. Generally, how our programs run and how they work. We're going to move on to 2 programming paradigms, object-oriented programming and functional programming, which are 2 different lenses that we can kind of look through to build programs and design our programs with these different kind of almost architectures. Paradigm is really the best word. 2 different paradigms that we can use to be able to structure our programs. Concurrency, what happens when we have multiple things happening at the same time? This is just a fact of life these days. Every one of you is probably watching me right now on a computer that has multiple cores in its processor. To take advantage of those multiple cores, we need to have multiple things happening at the same time. If not in our program, at least multiple programs running at the same time. Concurrency is just a fact of life with programming these days. And when we start talking about distributed systems and things like that, we can have one app that runs on multiple machines, even multiple data centers when we talk about really large apps like, for example, Twitch that we're using right now, or if you're watching this on YouTube. Both those apps are running across, around the world in different data centers to build one experience. So how do we get all of those machines, with each machine having multiple cores, working together to build just one experience? Non-trivial task right there. We'll just talk about the surface level of concurrency in this course, just to give you a taste of it. And then data structures and algorithms. You know of a couple of data structures right now, lists and arrays, dictionaries, and JavaScript objects. We're going to expand that. We're going to add linked lists, trees, and graphs to figure out ways to work with data that you wouldn't be able to necessarily work with the data structures that you currently know. So we're going to talk about those, how they're structured, and some algorithms to work with data stored in those types of data structures. And the main focus is how our programs work. In 115, the focus was just write code that gets it done. In this course, I want to know that you know how your program works. With that, let me take a quick break. Not break, but I want to answer this question in chat. Paying for class less than learning for free on Twitch. So I forgot to mention this. I meant to mention this earlier. But anyone who's not enrolled in this class, you're more than welcome to join the Twitch. You can watch the VODs. You can check out the course site. Follow along the course as much as you want. I'm of the attitude of if it doesn't take extra time for me, why would I restrict other people from seeing it? That's why I have everything public for my courses. The only things you don't get are access to office hours, access to the auto grader, because both of those take resources that tuition-paying students are paying for. You're not going to be able to use those. But anybody not enrolled in the course, if you know somebody who's interested in programming and has basic programming knowledge, the equivalent of 115, tell them to stop by, hang out and chat, and whatever. I mean, if anybody wants to hang out in this, I already have to make the course as part of my job. If more people can benefit from what I do, that would just make me happier. Like, I like that. Self-promoting. It's self-promoting, but I also don't get anything out of it. So, take it for what it's worth. I just don't see any reason to restrict my stuff. Yeah, I know a lot of my colleagues don't agree with that. I don't really fully know why, but I think they're worried about their stuff getting stolen, which, to be honest, has actually happened to me. So, yeah, it is what it is. So let's move on to expectations. For a uni president, no way. I don't want that job. That job's mostly like paperwork and dealing with complaints. Fuck that. Screw that. So expectations of this course. The big one is I expect you to work. I expect you to put in at least 12 hours per week in this course at a minimum. This is a minimum requirement to be able to even do decently well in this course. I'm not saying if you put in 12 hours a week, you will get an A, but if you put in at least 12 hours per week, you're going to do decently well in this course. And if you put in 12 hours a week, I'll talk about this more. Hell, I'll talk about it right now. If you are clearly putting in at least 12 hours per week and you're not doing well in the course, myself and the TAs, we're going to do whatever we can to make sure you're successful in this course. So I'm going to work with you. Don't beat your head against the wall. If I constantly hear from students saying they're putting in 20, 30, 40 hours a week and getting nowhere. If you're in that situation, come talk to me. We'll have a Zoom chat. We'll talk it out, and I'll help you out. Yeah, 24 hours per day. If you do put in 24 hours per day, I guarantee you'll fail this class. You'll be so sleep deprived, you won't be able to function. I think that's what happens to some students. If they put in too much time with this and their other courses, and they're getting like a couple hours of sleep per night, that's when I see students really struggle, to be honest. So I wouldn't go too far beyond 12, especially if you're doing that in every class. Or just invest right now and retire. So 12 hours per week, 5 of this is scheduled for you. You have 3 hours of lecture and 2 hours of lab per week. So that leaves 7 hours per week at a minimum of work outside of class, reviewing the lectures, rewatching the videos, studying, reading the reading links, and of course the big one of actually doing the programming assignments. That's going to take at least 7 hours per week. We've been using Discord long enough that you can go in the Discord right now, go into the 116 channel and say, hey, is Jesse full of crap with this 12 hours per week thing? And you will have a huge outpouring of students saying, no, this is serious. Because I know you hear this in every class. I think every one of my colleagues says this. And this time it is true. And I know a lot of them even say that. They'll say, this time it's true. And then you spend an hour a week and you get an A, and it's an easy A course. So don't take it from me. Ask these students in Discord. They'll let you know. And they'll be more truthful and forthcoming with that. they'll be more believable. You'll believe them more than you will believe me. And this 12-hour minimum assumes that you're comfortable that you're with all of the 115 material. If you're not familiar with the 115 material, I have some resources to help you out here. I have a version of the UB Infinite site that doesn't have any of the prereqs, so everything is unlocked. You can skip around to any module that you want, any topic that you want. So check that out. Dr. Alphonse's recordings from the first new version when we switched the languages of 115, and an old course website with a bunch of links. I hope this is still live. Yeah, an old course website from that first offering as well. So if you need to catch up on 115 material. This 12 hours per week does assume that you're familiar with all of that. So if you're not familiar with 115, and one big problem I see in this course is students who, and if I'm describing you, you can take this as a personal attack if you want. But, oh, what's up, Trino? Nice to see you again. If you took 115 and squeaked by with like a C or even like a B minus or less, and then over the break you didn't study at all, you said, oh, thank goodness I'm done with that course, and then just started forgetting about 115 material, and you're coming in right now, day one, cold, out of practice, you're not in for a good time right now. Like, you need to know your 115 material inside and out, because that's going to be covered very quickly. I'm going to introduce Scala in like a couple of lectures and go through basically all of 115 in, I think, 3 lectures this semester. I have it set up to be. So if you're still trying to figure out what loops are, what data structures are, what iteration means, which iteration, if you haven't heard that term, is looping. You iterate over a data structure, it means looping. If you're not familiar with all that content, it's going to be very hard for you to catch up on that content while also learning Scala, and then I start throwing new topics at you. That's going to be very difficult. If you're in that boat, you're going to greatly exceed this 12 hours per week right from the first week. You're going to have to work a lot harder than that, a lot more hours than that. Likewise, if you slack off in this course at all, so if the first few weeks you don't catch up on the videos like you should, etc., and you only put in your required 5 hours or sometimes even less. I know what student would do that. Even less than that, not even watching the lectures. Expect to work a lot harder later on in the semester. It's going to catch up to you. This 12 hours per week is an average. So if you don't put it in early, you're going to be putting in 40 plus hours later. So just be aware of that, that this course is going to be demanding of your time. There's no getting around that. This course is going to demand a lot of your time. I say this every semester. I feel like nobody ever believes me, and then I spend more time on this section every semester, and still nobody believes me, but hey, I'm going to say it again. People don't believe me until the course evals at the end of the semester. A lot of students are like, I thought you were full of it on day one, but then, holy goodness, you were not. You were telling the truth. Anyway, you don't have to believe me or not, but just take this for what it's worth. This is not a hollow threat or anything. This is just a cautionary tale that this course is going to demand your time. But if you're putting in the time, I'm going to hold up. I'm going to make a bargain with you. I'll hold up my end of the bargain of I'm going to help you out and do what I need to do to help you succeed and get you to succeed. As long as I see you're putting in the work. If I see that you're not putting in the work, well, I'm just going to say tough luck, better luck next semester. And when I do, at the end of each semester, I review every student who fails. I look at what they've done throughout the semester. I do take it seriously when somebody fails my classes or resigns. I look over everything and see if there's anything that I could have done better. And in every single case so far, after 5 years of doing this, every single student who's failed one of my classes, it's because they haven't put in the effort. They just didn't even try. They skip labs, they skip lectures, they don't even make any submissions for some of the assignments, like really silly stuff like that. Not just struggling with the material. If you are struggling with the material and that's why you're not showing up to lab or that's why you're not making submissions, reach out to me. Come talk to me. I'm here. I'll listen. Let me know. Or a TA, and then the TA can relay it to me. if it's a big issue. I'm struggling, but I'll show up. That's what I like to hear. If you're struggling but show up, like, that's all I can really ask, is that you put your best foot forward and try. Once you give up on me, like, you're certainly gonna fail. But as long as you keep showing up and keep trying, I'm gonna work with you. Tell them last semester's fail rate. I don't know. You can if you want, but a lot of students fail every semester. Last semester was, a little worse than usual. So I would like to see very few of you fail or resign. I want to see you all succeed in this class and move on, to bigger and better things next semester. But it doesn't always work like that. The course is tough. Oh, and just to, where are we at? 2:16. All right, I didn't want to spend this much time on this, but so my goal in this course is I have to bridge the gap between 115 and 220/250. So I can do what I can to make the material more palatable. I can redesign the assignments, which I did a big redesign over the break. I can redesign things to make them as palatable as possible and help you out as much as I can. But there's a certain point, like the core fundamental what you're learning in this class, I can't remove that. Because if I do, you're just going to fail 220 and 250 next semester. And I don't want to set you up for failure next semester. So I'm going to help you out, but there's only so much I can do. At the end of the day, you got to learn the stuff. You got to learn the material. So I can play with the grading structure, which is what I do want to spend most of this time on. The grading structure is designed to help you focus on your education and learn this material and be prepared for the next semester and the rest of your careers. And I can't take that away. But everything else, I can try my best to make it easier for you and get rid of what I call artificial difficulty. The only difficulty you should have in this class is learning the material. There shouldn't be anything else in your way. Okay, so with that, the learning objectives. This is what the whole course revolves around, these 4 learning objectives. Each learning objective is divided into 3 parts: read, explain, and write. Read, if I give you a program using the concepts of a learning objective, you should be able to trace through that program and explain what it, not explain, I'll be careful with my wording, describe, maybe they're the same word, but whatever. Describe what that program does. This will be assessed through quizzes in lab. You'll have a quiz. I'll give you, the TAs and I will give you programs, give you code, and you got to explain what that code does. Describe. I already messed it up. Explain. This is going to be, you need to be able to communicate verbally about the concept of the learning objective. And I'll go over I'm going through the whole site too. I won't read everything to you, but I'll give you the gist of everything. So either scroll down or just wait. So explain. You need to be able to communicate verbally. This is an important skill. It's something that's not tested in a lot of CSE classes, but this is an important skill. This will be assessed through interviews with TAs and myself for some cases, where you'll have an interview about the learning objective at the end of each learning objective, and you have to be able to explain the concepts and the topics of that learning objective. There are a few reasons why I do this. Of course, making sure you understand the stuff and can communicate about it. But also, when you're applying for internships, when you're applying for that first job out of college, there's going to be a lot of situations where you will have to go through an interview. And I like it, I very much, if that interview was not your first stressful, high-pressure interview situation like that. You're going to get at least 4 of them in this course. More if you don't pass the first interviews. We'll talk about that. But I want to give you practice with that. So after you go through this semester, that first internship interview should be nothing. Not nothing, but you should be used to that style, that type of situation. It's something we don't really give you much practice with in computer science, so you will get practice with it. In the terms of just this course, I need to know that you understand the learning objectives and can communicate about them. This basically replaces like vocab quizzes. Where I just give you a quiz, explain inheritance, explain polymorphism. We do those interview style here through Zoom meetings, and those are one-on-one interviews. And write, this one should go without saying, this is, can you write code? These are the Autolab submissions. You write a program, you submit it to Autolab. Autolab auto-grades it and tells you if you passed or failed. So for each of the 4 learning objectives, I won't go through all of this. I talked about an overview of each learning objective already. But I have a sentence about read, explain, write, what exactly it means for that learning objective. Your goal in this class is to prove to me that you've completed the read, explain, and write portion of all 4 learning objectives. So you have 12 things, 12 sentences, 12 bullet points. I call them parts of a learning objective that you need to complete to get through this course. We have ways to streamline the grading of each one of these, which are explained down below. We have ways of assessing these, what I call the default ways of assessing them. And that's just because there are so many students in the class, we've got to streamline some things. But your overall goal is to prove to me that you've completed all these. A student has completed this objective if they are able to trace through the execution of programs that use recursive methods, functions, first-order functions, immutable types, and concurrency while tracking the state of stack and heap memory. At some point in the semester, I have to see that you can do this. The way you show that isn't too important. Ideally, you'll get this done through the lab quiz and just batch processed and say you passed that. But if we get to a point where I have to personally review and talk to you and have Zoom meetings with you, then we'll do that. We'll work with you to get that. But those 12 things, your goal in this class is to show me that you've completed all those. So you have to complete those 4 learning objectives to pass the course, which is probably what all the F's are in chat. I missed the first part of that. You have to complete all 4 of them to pass this class. You complete 0 through 3 of them. That's an F. You complete all 4 of them. Your grade is going to depend on what's called application objectives. And the number of application objectives you complete is going to determine your grade after that. So there's no concept of points or percentages or averages in this course. It's strictly based on completing these objectives. And the objectives are effectively pass-fail. You've completed an objective or you haven't completed that objective. So that's what I mean when I'm going to work with you. Like if the one of these you don't complete, maybe you didn't do well on this interview, I'm going to work with you. As long as I see you're putting in effort, I'm going to give you more chances. You can interview with me multiple times if need be. We'll get you through it. I'm going to help you out as long as you're putting in effort in upholding your end of the bargain, which my measurement for that is, do I believe that you've been putting in an average of 12 hours per week in this course? If I believe that, then I'm going to give you more opportunities. Because I don't want you to get an F because you missed one of those 12 things off of, some BS. Maybe the TA was in a bad mood the day they interviewed you. Things can happen. I don't think my TAs will do that, but if something weird like that happens, I'm going to work with you and we're going to get you through it. As long as you're working and deep down inside your soul, as long as you know that you've completed all 12 of these things, that you can do these things, it's my job to make sure you pass the class. If deep down you know that you haven't completed all these, well, you got some studying to do. So for the learning objectives, I'm not going to go through this because I mentioned most of it, but you can go through all the details. Each few things I want to highlight, actually. During lab, there are 2 labs for each learning objective dedicated to quizzes and interviews. Each lab is going to be a quiz, a code reading quiz, so we can assess your read portion of that learning objective. That quiz is going to be almost the entire duration of lab. You have the entire duration of lab to complete it, the 110 minutes. But for 10 of those minutes, you're going to be pulled away for a 10-minute interview to assess the explain portion of the learning objective. So you effectively have 100 minutes. These quizzes will be designed to be 100-minute quizzes. So you have a 10-minute interview and the quiz to assess both of those during that lab. If you fail either one of those, I shouldn't say fail, but if you don't complete the objective, if you didn't do quite well enough on one or both of those, the following week will be a second chance lab with the exact same format. So if maybe you passed the quiz but didn't pass the interview, you show up to this next week to the second chance lab, do your interview. Hopefully you studied and do well, knock it out of the park, then you have that complete as well. If by the second chance you haven't completed it, still, I'm going to put you on a recovery plan. So at the end of each learning objective, there will be a learning objective checkpoint. This will be after the 2 labs. So the 2 labs and then, of course, the programming stuff, which I'll talk about in a second. If you don't have all of that complete, if you don't have read, explain, write, all complete for that learning objective by its checkpoint, which are all marked in the schedule below, if you don't have all of those completed by that checkpoint, I'm going to review your work, and I'm going to put you on some recovery plan. This might entail extensions on the writing, on the programming aspects of it, of the objective. It might be makeup interviews with myself. It might be scheduling a time for another lab. I might have a separate time, or maybe take a part of, I don't know what the logistics are going to look like. But whatever it is, whatever you've missed, as long as I believe you've been working and trying, I'm going to give you a plan, and I'll let you know what that plan is. And that plan will have some other deadline and conditions and, whatever it is on a case-by-case basis, whatever I think is appropriate. And if there's half of you didn't pass it, I'll have some just generic stuff. Okay, we're going to have a makeup lab at this time or whatever. I don't know what exactly it's going to look like, but I'm going to put you on a plan. If by the end of that plan, you still haven't made up the work, and I think I've given you reasonable opportunities, if at the end of that you still aren't there, you still don't have it complete, well, sorry, it's going to be an F in the course. At the end of that, if you don't get it past that first learning objective, after the recovery plan, after the checkpoint and everything, that's it. There's nothing more I can do for you. I will be very reasonable with these recovery plans. If there's any chance that you're putting in work and that you are actually trying, I'm going to work with you. But there's going to come a point where if you're just not upholding your end of the bargain, which is at least 12 hours per week, if you're just not willing to participate in the course, sorry, that's it. I'm just going to cut you off early. You can go resign so you don't get an F on your transcript, but that's going to be it for you. Application objectives. These will be scattered throughout the course. There will be certain things you can do to complete the application objective, which I think, did I bury? Oh, yeah, I buried it in the assignment itself. All right. I'm going to pull up the first assignment and talk about it through this. So the first assignment's released. It's on Autolab and everything. You can start working on it today. But the homework assignments are going to have 3 different types of objectives. And I realize I overused that word. Yeah, serial guys at TA. I realize I overused that word objective. But I didn't know what else to call these. I tried calling them something else, but nothing else felt right. So there's 3 types of objectives: lecture objectives, programming objectives, and application objectives on the homework. All 3 of these types of objectives will be auto-graded in Autolab, and will be in your feedback for the assignment. To complete the right portion of a learning objective, you have to complete all of the lecture objectives and some portion of the programming objectives. This will be different for each assignment. For this one, there are 2 programming objectives. Do one of them. If you complete that, you have the right portion of your learning objective complete. No questions asked. If Autolab says you got them done, then you got them done. If Autolab doesn't say you have them done, there are still chances. I can manually review and see that you're so close, but you're missing this one little thing that I don't care that much about. I can just waive that and give you credit anyway. But if you have these done, you certainly have it done. If Autolab says you're done, I'm not arguing with my grader. So that's how you complete the right. And then there are extra objectives. There's 1 for this assignment. There will be at least 1 for every programming assignment. Is an application objective. For this one, given 2 cities on the planet, give me a city. If I'm in one city, you're in another city. Say I'm in Buffalo, you're in New York City. Where's the best city for us to meet? That's exactly halfway or as close to halfway between us as possible to limit distance, ignoring roads and bodies of water and everything. So in the question I say, assume we both have helicopters. We want to find the best place to meet that's right in the middle of us. So that's the application objective of this. And you're given the data with the cities, and you can look through the assignment. I'll talk about it at some point. not today. So that's an application objective. Complete that. Autolab says you got it done. You got it done and you got an application objective. So there's at least one application objective on each assignment. And I'll have multiple. I'll have more than one in some of the assignments. My plan is to get 2 for each one. I only have 1 in the first one, but hopefully we'll get at least get 2 on the next 3 assignments. There's also a project contribution. I'll talk about this. This is contributing to an open source project that's hosted in a CSE repo for the department. I have a few, I have to manage a few things there, get that in the right shape that I want it to be for this semester. But that'll be available to you. You can only get 1 application objective for this. I'll limit it to 1 so you don't get all your application objectives through that. And then a final exam, which will have at least 3 application objectives available to work on. So those of you who are familiar with last semester's course, this is way different. Last semester I had, you needed 8 of these to get an A, and there were exactly 8 available. This semester I have way more available than you need to get your A. You need 6 to get an A. At least 3 of them will show up on the final exam. So as long as you have 3 complete before the final, you can still earn your A. The reason for this change is that I want you focusing on these learning objectives and not being discouraged that application objectives are passing you by while you're working on learning objectives. I had that problem last semester. It was causing a lot of panic. So I want to avoid that this semester. So any combination of these, find a way to get to 6 and you got your A. Focus on your learning objectives and somehow get 3 out of these and then knock the final out. And you'll get that. I should get firm on this and just decide how many I'll have on there. It will be at least 3, but maybe I'll make a final exam with 4 opportunities. I'm undecided on that quite yet. Maybe we'll just see how the semester goes leading up to it. But your goal is to focus on these learning objectives. This goes till 2:40, right? Okay. These are the big things I want to talk about. I should give the academic integrity spiel. I won't give you the full thing because you've at least heard this in 115. But what do I want to highlight this semester? I don't even know. Don't cheat. The biggest thing that I find, the biggest thing I find and what I look for actually is if 2 students code submissions, programming submissions, if the code looks similar beyond what I believe could happen if you wrote your code separately, it's going to be an F for both students. One of the the most common case of this, where I have to sit down with a student and have that unfortunate, Zoom meetings these days, where sometimes, I hate these meetings, by the way. Sometimes students are crying and they're just distraught. Their whole world is crumbling down, and I have to be like, hey, you cheated. What do you want me to do? I'm not doing anything about it. I have to be the cold, stern, you failed. You got caught. Take your punishment. But the most common case of this, where students weren't quite sure that they were cheating, is when they're working together on an assignment. So when you're working, just don't work on the code together for an assignment. You are allowed to talk about abstract solutions. If you want to talk about how you're going to approach a problem and how you're going to structure your solution to a problem, go ahead. I want that should be encouraged. I want you to be doing this. Work with your classmates and, learn together. That's a great thing to have in this course. When it comes to writing the code, the actual code, you shouldn't have anyone around you. That should be completely independent. You should be solo on that. This was more of a problem when we were live, is 2 students would sit next to each other in Davis Hall and work on the code and look at each other's screens from time to time. And by the time they're done with the assignment, their code just looks almost identical. And then next thing they know, they're in my office getting Fs. Don't do it. Just when it comes to writing the code, even if you map out, a lot of your solution like this, once it comes to writing your code, if you write your code separately, you'll be surprised how differently your 2 submissions end up. On the other hand, if you're doing this, if you're writing code together or just blatantly cheating, you'd be surprised how similar your code ends up, even after your clever little, rearranging the order of the methods and the order that variables are declared and using different variable names. Like, to be honest, let me share a little secret with you. If your variable names don't make sense at all, you probably cheated off somebody and then just started replacing variable names. It's pretty obvious. I know some of you just have variable names that don't make sense because I see you in office hours sometimes, but when you have nonsensical variable names, it's especially when the code that you're very similar to has very meaningful variable names. It's like, dude, I know what happened here. You're not going to BS me out of this one. So that's it. It's an unfortunate part of my job, but it's a serious part of my job. I will do it. I do take it seriously. Don't cheat and you won't have to worry about it. All right. And the course itself, the rest of the page is the schedule. Oh, by the way, I got to show this off because I always get questions about this each semester. The first time I do it in lecture, chat explodes like, whoa, I didn't know you could do that. So I want to show you day one. You can click these. You can click anywhere on this bar actually and collapse it. And when you reload, it stays collapsed. So once you've read the syllabus, you're comfortable with all that content and you don't want to scroll past it every time, just collapse it. It stays collapsed, and then you're good. And then when you want to refer to it, just open it up, take a look at what you need to look at, and then close it up again. Each section of the course will also collapse. So if you want a good overview of the course, collapse them all. That's the whole course, and then start expanding them. So once we're done with LO1, close it up. Pro tip. Okay, so each learning objective is going to be 6 weeks of the course. It's actually not a cookie. Not the cookie. It actually isn't a cookie. It's local storage, for what it's worth. So each learning objective is 3 weeks of the course. So in 3 weeks, I'm going to show you the learning objective. We're going to learn everything we need to know about that learning objective. The following week, the Thursday of the last week is going to be the first learning objective verification. The next Thursday is going to be the second chance. If you completed your interview and quiz this time, you got credit for it. You don't have to show up to this lab. You can show up if you want, but we won't have anything for you. And then the checkpoint is the Friday after that second chance. So after that second chance, that next Friday, that's when you're expected to have all the programming done for the right portion of that, and 2 chances to get the other stuff done. At this point, that weekend, the Saturday after each checkpoint, I'm going to review everything, create the plans. Oh, I forgot what I even called them. I don't know, the you didn't pass the checkpoint plan. I forget what it's called. I just named it a few weeks ago, so I don't remember. And that's the structure throughout the whole course. We're on learning objective 2, 3 weeks, lab, checkpoint, functional programming and concurrency, lab, checkpoint, etc., etc. Recovery plan. Thank you, Sobi. So that's 12 weeks of the course. We have a week of review at the end. And 1 week, this week, doesn't really count for anything. That's why the second chance for LO2 goes beyond this. This week is definitely not spring break. But if I don't see you in chat, if I don't see you in lecture, I'll still stream this week. If I don't see you in lab, it's whatever. But I'll still be around at the usual times. We'll still be in lab and everything. But if you don't show up, whatever. You do have work to do this week. You got to maintain your mental health. You just take care of yourself that week. Try to relax. I know most of you will use that time to catch up on other courses or catch up on this course. That's fine, but just even while you're doing that, make sure you take some time for yourself, get some sleep, just focus on yourself for a bit and relax. Trust me, this course is going to beat you up enough. At least take this time to recover some of that back. Nothing's due. Everything's technically extended by a week. This week officially doesn't really exist. If you collapse that, everything flows following the regular schedule. But there's a big but here. If anyone asks, This is not spring break, especially if, say, a dean, a provost, a department head, a politician even. It's definitely not a spring break. It's not spring break, guys. It's not spring break. It's definitely not spring break. So as long as we're good on what that is, whatever you want to call it, it's not spring break. It's definitely not spring break. So that's the course, and we're at 2:40 exactly. So we hit that pretty good. So so this is officially the end of lecture. After lecture ends, I won't cover any new content that you're required to know. I might review some things, and I'll answer questions if you have questions about the content. But you're never required to catch up on that. Some of you have other classes to go to and other stuff. So I won't extend beyond that time for official content. But I will stay on stream, and we'll talk unofficially about whatever.